like E.V. Taylor and Alice Morgan, they have given the classical evolution theory, and in which they have told that it will be unilinear development, like starting from the savagery to barbarism and then civilization. And then what happened that these people, the British diffusionists, they came and they just they are the critic of this unilinear diffusionism, and they say that the development of cultures are not only because of evolution, they are also because of the transmission of various cultures, and that is the diffusion. So next slide please. So diffusion is a geographical and temporal spreading of culture traits, ideas, innovation from one society to the other society. And in this, the diffusionist perspective, they have discussed about like what they can do. Like starting from, it is an advanced way to understand the diffusionism, in which all cultural innovations originated in a single center, and they have taken Egypt as that single center and spread outward rather than developing independently across the other civilizations. They are not supporting the cultural parallels or the different things which came after or the before evolutionary theory. Like single unilinear development is not there. So next slide please. So under this they have a three central premises of that, and the three central premises of there would be, the first thing was man is uninventive. Man cannot do any invention, and like the innovation, most cultures were incapable of independent innovation. Like all the people, they are focusing only on their food and their survival things. They are not bothered about the innovation. They are not thinking about the innovation. And they were thinking that to do any innovation, you need some particular prerequisite for that. If you are not having that prerequisite, then you cannot do any innovation. And the prerequisite, in their case, they thought that only Egypt was a center which had all the things that innovation is required. For example, they have Nile River and abundance of resources which favored the conditions, enabled technological and the cultural advances, and from there everything happened, transmission happened outward to different cultures, and due to that reason, dilution and diffusion that came handy, and when diffusion happened, it also diluted the culture of Egypt and it has moved outward to different cultures. And this was the key premises of the British diffusionism, and that's what they believed in. So talking about the next slide. So talking about the Smith, so Grafton Elliot Smith, he was extreme diffusionist, and he is one of the main figures in the diffusionist theory, and he has talked about the Egyptologist, and he was anatomist at the University of Cambridge and proposed Egypt as the source of all civilization. Like when he went to Egypt, he just compared the monoliths of Europe and the Egyptian pyramids, and he compared many things like the sun gods, agriculture, and different things when he compared, and he found that these things have similarity, and through cultural similarity, mutual contact, and he explored different cultures. Then he compared it, and then he published his thesis on ancient Egyptian and their influence upon the civilization of Europe in a first, and again in his book, in the beginning, Origin of Cultures, Origin of Civilization also, he discussed about these things. So initially he was convinced about that Egypt was the center, and later on he formed the historical reconstruction or the conjectural history to prove that. And again he has another book, that is Diffusion of Culture. So, and in that he given the pan-Egyptian theory. In that he discussed about the agriculture in Egypt. You know, the main region of agriculture was in Nile River, and from Nile River we had the barley cultivation for the first time, and then the different things evolved and it has moved. Then like potteries were given the place of the sun worship. So worshipping of the sun across the cultures was one of the main reasons. And another book was Diffusion of Culture. Then science and technology also came first, like navigation and traveling to distant places. But he didn't explain why this diffusion is happening to every other place. Why it is going to every other place. And he just romanticized. As I have told, it was a conjectural history. It was a historical reconstruction. He was just trying to prove his fact like we do in like any of the things like UFO explanation or whatever the thing that these mysteries are not unsolved. So we find many of the theories in our mind only. So it was the same thing in romanticization. So after him, the W.J. Perry came, And W.J. Perry was a blind follower of it, and he was a blind supporter of it. So he just did what he could not able to do. So Smith could not able to explain why every culture is diffusing to the other culture next. Then he explained the heliolithic explanation, like helium means sun and lithic means the stones. So in that situation, he explained that how transmission is taking place, and in that he wrote a book, Children of Sun. So he thought that there are children of sun who are transmitting this culture from Egypt to the all over the world, and he thought that there is like no art and craft is enduring. There is nothing that which lasts forever. It every time it has to dilute. It has to dilute in any reason. And in that he has a different other book also. It was Gods and the Man, and he just if he didn't get anything about the transmission, he just correlated with the God and solved his theory. And he didn't give any independent theory about that, but he was a supporter of Smith. He did field work in Melanesia, visited Cairo, and also he correlated with Southeast Asia, America, and Europe, the same culture. If you read the book Children of Sun, the first line would be the focus of the Indian culture and the Southeast culture. All are same, just the mummification or whatever the thing he was taking. It was he just correlated everything. And then we are having the last W.H.R. Rivers. So William Rivers, we all know him about the genealogical chart or Todas and different things he has done. So he was a psychiatrist and anthropologist. He conducted field work in Melanesia, and while conducting field work in Melanesia, we could not find the answers of the some things. Like mainly two things, like the why the use of canoe, like there is no canoe in that. And the second reason was why the different kind of burials are there in the Australian Aboriginals. So he found that there are 5 burials in Australian Aboriginals. So he just tried to correlate, like everyone was doing the same thing. Just first you find your theory, and then to correlate, you are just historical reconstructing it, finding a like conjectural history. So he just also tried to do same thing. He just thought that there would be some superior male people who have come to this Australian Aboriginals community, and they just went there, they married the local women out there, and they learned their local languages and adopted their own culture. But they refused to give up their own burial rights. And likewise, if you have like the 5 more superior kind of people from different communities coming and settling there, and they are not giving up their burial rights, and that will lead to different kinds of burial rights in that region. So this is the way he explained it. And second thing that he was not getting answer, that was the canoe. Why there was no canoe in that region? So he thought that maybe the uses or the implementation of the canoe would have like due to the technological advancement or different other things, like they are no longer using that. So that is why they are forgetting the art to make that canoe, or like whatever the technique they forgot to implement. So these two were the problems that he found. He accepted diffusionism as an important, but recognized that limited independent innovation. His other thing was like he was different with other two in a thing that other two were thinking that if you are having there is only one center for diffusion. Like from that one center only, the all diffusion is going forward. But he thought there can be a multiple origins. There can be a multiple origins for diffusion to take place. And he also tried Radcliffe Brown and Minkowski. So next slide, please. So as I was talking about the Smith, that Egypt versus America. So this is the American monolith, and this is the Egyptian pyramid. So by looking, if a person who is visiting first time for the Europe, he will definitely find a similarity among these two. And so this is the only thing that he was an anatomist also. So he just correlated those things, and through that Smith and Perry, they just argued and they try to correlate the contextual history, whatever they are having, with the comparable techniques And next slide, please. So, heliocentric theory and the Egyptologies. So, astronomical knowledge. So, heliocentric theory also says that all the planets revolve around the sun, and the sun is the major god, and that is led to the deity as a worship of sun. So, they just say that it was the important thing, and that is why everyone was following that thing. Some was the important god, and like everyone was, and seeing the advancement, like whatever advancement Egypt has at that time, like before, like maritime capability, global spread of that. So this led them to think about that Egypt must be a superior culture, and it has been the origin of that culture, and due to spread only diffused to later time period of whatever they are thinking. Next. So critical problems in diffused inspiration. So we discussed about the conjectural history. So the main thing about there, like we always think that everyone can explain anything if you correlate about anything. Like you were thinking that this is my opinion, but if I start correlating about anything, then definitely you will get some answer. But this will not be empirical or the evidence full there. And many anthropologists criticize them that they didn't focus on the art and religion of other culture, like especially in the case of rivers. And many criticize them because they didn't give the complex theories of diffusion. They also didn't give about the typological different types of diffusion, how they are going. And it was all the conjecture and their point of view. There was no evidence. And the second thing was it was all the archaeological basis. They were not giving like any different thing to prove. It was only the material thing, that whatever the material they are finding, on the basis of on that only they were doing whatever the research they were doing. And they were highly Afrocentric in their thinking. Like they were racist assumptions over there, the non-Egyptian people were intellectually incapable of innovation. But when these things like carbon dating and all that things are done, it was found out that many cultures in Europe were predated than the Egyptian cultures. So, and the level of interpretation, it was highly superficial. It was only because of the similarities, whatever the similarities. But it is not 100% clear that whatever, like every time we find a similarity, there is going to be a mutual contact of that. Maybe due to some universal belief of all that things, and later it proved to be known as like cultural parallels, psychic unity of mankind. So later it will come back. And they were also their theories was known as the revolt against the evolutionary theory. So they were like totally against, but they didn't give any solid proof for it. So the main thing, what their legacy is, that they started the diffusionist concept, and due to them only the later development came, like German diffusinists came and Americans came, and so their legacy, we can say that they started the discussion. They started discussing that this can be one of the way, and those critics, when they researched about it, they got to find out different things. They have been rejected by the modern anthropology for the negative evidence and anthrocentric options, and the modern view, contemporary scholarship, recognizes both diffusion and independent innovation also. Like now we know that there can be independent innovation at any place of time, but earlier they were reluctant to understand that. And this was the main theory of there, and whatever they have thought, and after that many improvement also take place. So thank you so much.